I have a T-shirt that has the number.
So we have a quorum, but we can't stand on it.
Keith, can you hear me? Yeah.
I can.
All right,
I most certainly can. I guess you want to start.
we're gonna start with you. We're gonna call the meeting to order, and then we're gonna ask why it's so cold outside.
Well, this is just
Just
Keith
put on your
Allen, the
gloves.
weatherman. It's just a day or two of this. But the good news is that we're gonna go into an unusually dry weather pattern that's gonna go right through New Year's. And temperatures here on Christmas Day will probably be approaching 60 degrees.
Holy cow.
And for the snow lovers and the romantics, sorry about that. But this should last right into January. But then I think things are gonna start to change by about the 10th to the 15th of January, and then, you know, we'll be talking about more cold weather, but precipitation with that, so that could mean
Okay.
snow, sleet,
Snow
freezing
days.
rain.
More
I see you're
snow
not
days.
in your shorts tonight.
Not today, that's for sure.
Okay.
Anyway, that's the good news. I've got no bad news weather-wise at all.
Okay.
I like it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, no,
So the next is opportunity for the council to hear resident comments. Do we have any
President comment?
resident comments? Yes, ma'am.
Paula Goldberg, Bradley Lane, not at all tree related. A few months ago, Wayne painted our storm drain down at the dead end of Bradley Lane to hopefully caution anybody who parked down there to be aware that it was somewhat treacherous. And lo and behold, on Monday night, we had a house guest drive up to our house, parked near the rebar, slashed his tires, and this is at least the fourth time that it's happened. So I don't know what the long-term solution is. The short-term solution may be for us, at least at this dead end, to put traffic cones down there so that if we have holiday guests driving in, that they don't park by the storm, by this. But the rebar is a hazard, and it not only costs people time, it costs them money.
Yeah.
And I fear for the kid on a skateboard or a bicycle that just brushes up too close to that rebar, because if it can do in a tire in good condition, it can certainly do up a.
I'm not
somebody's
familiar
leg.
with the detail. This is rebar sticking out of where the storm drain comes in?
So this was rebar that was installed years ago, I think, to prevent, I'm not sure why it was installed, and it's not something that we have on all of our storm drains.
Yeah.
So it was, I think, it was installed there to prevent large objects from falling into the storm drain,
Well,
like
Yeah, we
children. So I don't know. I have been told, I haven't been able to verify that. But there's on the top of the rebar, there are sharp edges, and we've had at least 3 experiences now in our household where we've hit rebar and have had to replace a tire, and although Wayne did a beautiful job painting it, I don't think that the signal that it sends is strong enough to really
We're not
caution
in the middle
people
of the
So-
about
I wonder if we
its-
can deal with it somehow permanently.
So this is
This was raised before.
Doug has some thoughts.
I'll send in the request for DOT to repair it.
Okay,
All right.
It might take them a few weeks, but I'll,
but,
Oh,
but
that's
do you
all
think
right.
it can just be sawn off, planed down, something like that?
either
Let's
that or
take a look at why the rebar is required, and then if
Yeah.
there's a better way to do it than however it was done
Yeah,
15, 20 years ago, then maybe we could ask for that.
Thank you so
I'll put a
much.
request.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's Raymond, Raymond?
No,
On Bradley, at the
Bradley.
dead end, yeah.
Okay. Yes, ma'am,
Hi,
Marty.
Marty Langley, Chestnut Street, and I also have a hazard to report. When I stopped by the office last week, it had been raining quite a bit, and there was a very large puddle along where you come down from the stairs here on the side from Turner Street, right? If that froze, you would have quite the ice slick there. It would probably be invisible because of the lighting. And I asked James last week to talk to the landlord. That's not something the council needs to do, but maybe James takes to the landlord. So I don't know, James, did the landlord say anything about correcting the drainage there?
I've always had difficulties getting up with him. I just need to follow up to make sure that happens.
Well, if you
He
would,
is
please,
not the
'cause
most. Yeah.
It was a hazard when it was wet,
Mhm.
you know, but it would really be dangerous if it turns to ice.
Not a problem.
And it was quite extensive, about 30 feet of puddle.
Where was this, right here on the sidewalk,
Yeah.
right
The
along here?
steps where you come down, like I parked in the parking lot and I popped around and I came down the steps, it's dry now,
Uh-huh.
but the drainage there clearly is
No problem.
not working at all. Because it was a very large puddle, and I was thinking tonight, if it's still wet and it's a puddle, you know.
And it's impacting the steps too. We know that some of the bricks are loose, so.
Yeah, that's right, because the
anything
water
needs
is
to work.
damaging the concrete there, so again,
Thank you.
James, please do follow up on that.
No, no worries. I'll actually ask Lemon Twist to also assist with that.
Say again?
I'm sorry. I will ask Lemon Twist, the tenant downstairs,
To join in.
to join in this request, because while you are great when you visit, they have much more traffic than we do.
Well,
So
that's
they're
right, it's
probably
a
really
hazard to their
concerned about it.
customers.
Exactly.
So this is something the landlord needs to please fix before we get Keith's cold weather.
Right.
Anything else? Okay, then we'll move on to committee updates. Trees are coming after, so do you wanna do election if there's,
Yeah, let me start with elections. Again, Marty Langman, Chair of Elections Committee. We're planning to do a written report, but I actually have one for you, so Tina, I'll give it to you. I want to start with a personal note. I want to thank everybody in the room who has expressed condolences. My older brother died just before Thanksgiving, which is why, again, I have to thank Lori Mitchell and the committee for giving our report last month. He and I were very close growing up. He's just a year and a half older. It's like losing your twin. So thank you, everyone. And I also want to just make it clear to everybody that for me, staying busy works better than just, being sad. So don't hesitate to call me if there's any election committees, questions, issues, or anything. I'd be more than happy to be diverted from remembering my brother. So keep me busy because it will help. It's hard. And thank you all for recognizing that. Okay, the short report. Election committee was so pleased that in response to the community solicitation notice, 4 residents came forward. Bravo to David Bjorklund, Peter Kahn, Andrew Calders, and Todd Mann. Terrific, thank you. We understand the council has interviewed them, and we expect the council to elect the new member by your majority vote in January as soon as the necessary charter amendment is completed. Is that correct?
yes,
Okay, just checking in. And for everyone, the person that they elect to fill that vacancy will serve for the remainder of the open 2-year term until mid-2021. Election committee has set Thursday, May 7th as the date for the May 2020 election. Nominations period will open on February 2020. Last week, we briefed the VMA manager and assistant manager and the community engagement committee chair on the logistics for the election and the village celebration on the sidewalk on May 7th. The village staff prep work actually starts in February, March, and we wanted to give them the outlines well ahead of time so they could plan their workload. And I also promised them that I would give a quick summary to the council, so here's your 2-second briefing.
okay,
On that May 7th date, 2 things happened, the election and the celebration on the sidewalk, which is really a big event for the village. The election committee sets the election date, designs the voting table layout and signs over here at the south end of the block, and we manage the voting process with very strict rules and procedures. The community engagement committee team staffs a table just a little way up from us, outside the voting area. They have the ice cream tickets for folks, the new resident information forms from the village office, and any other materials they want to distribute to residents. The village staff does most of the sidewalk celebration work. And that includes contacting artists, food vendors, community groups like MANA and Friends of the Library, and all the different people who participate, including local politicians who may want to take the opportunity to visit for a meet and greet. And that needs to start at least 2 months in advance, and sometimes 3 months. Right? So it's a lot of prep work there. And I have to give a shout out here to Tina Lurie, our assistant manager, who has done a superb job on this for the last 2 years. We thank you for your really terrific, careful attention to detail, your thoroughness. It has just been superb. Last year it all ran like clockwork. The entire election committee says we are so grateful to you, Tina, and we look forward to working with you again this year. And also, I'm supposed to thank Keith Allen, not that I need to remind for this, but it's in my notes. Thank Keith Allen too for the very fine weather. Please do it again. Okay, one final item this month. We thank the council for taking action to amend page 3 of the election ordinance, policy 216-2, to allow residents to mail requests for absentee ballots to the election committee here at the village office. That will improve administrative efficiency, and I saw you put on the agenda tonight, so thank you. I will stay for that part of the meeting. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to say. It's really about just making life more efficient. And those ballot requests need to be turned around fast. We try to do it within 24 hours. Most of them come in on the email, but the ones that come in by mail, I don't want them sitting in a P.O. box somewhere. So thank you for doing that. Next election committee meeting is scheduled for Sunday, January 12th, 3 p.m. We will post the location and the agenda on Constant Contact closer to the date. Any questions?
Can you repeat that date again?
The next election
Yes,
committee
ma'am, I'm sorry.
meeting,
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, January 12th, 3 p.m.
Okay.
Thank
Location to be determined.
And nominations open when? I'm sorry. February?
February 20, 2020, 3/20s.
That's what I was
Easy
thinking,
to
I
remember
read
that.
320, but that was the.
And that gives us a 75-day period for people to think about it, talk to it with their family, whatever. So nominations period will open, and we'll issue a formal announcement of the nominations period, just like we did a formal vacancy announcement. You know, that's the process.
Great.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much.
Questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Keith, you wanna do the CEC, or you?
I don't have the minutes. I was not given the minutes. They did not submit those to me. I thought that one of the other members of the committee would be here. I don't see anybody present except me.
All right.
I mean, I checked the email just before I left. I still haven't received any.
Okay.
I'll make sure we have it for next month's meeting.
Okay. I know the minutes are online, so if there's anything that people have questions, they can go and look at the minutes that were posted before. And then if they wanna submit a report for this meeting, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Paul, you wanna do trees with trees?
Sure. Paula Goldberg, tree supervisor. I'm going to just present a couple of initiatives, activities that Tina and I have completed this month for the tree committee, because Paul Wolf, our VMA arborist, is here and will give an annual report. The Tree City USA application for this year was completed, thanks to the help of, thanks to Tina. And Tina and I had the pleasure of attending something called the Tree City Summit on December 4th, that was held at Gallaudet University in the Kellogg Conference Center. It was a one-day symposium on the health and welfare of trees in increasingly built environments. We came away with lots of terrific information, and had some time to think about activities around Arbor Day, which the date of which we have not set yet, but it usually takes place in late April. And we had a chance to network, and we had some very productive conversations with arborists from the Montgomery County Parks and Planning Commission and with Casey Trees. And that's about it. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I think that's it for the ethics, anything? Nope. All right, thank you. Next thing is the presentation of our annual audit.
I know everyone's super excited for that.
No news is good news on the annual audit.
Yeah, so James has provided you guys with the summary, so rather than going through the entire 45-page document, we're gonna hit some of the highlights.
Could you say your name?
I'm sorry, Eva Webb.
Say again?
Eva Webb,
Eva Wood.
yep. We're with, I'm with Linton, Schaefer, Warfoot, and Garrett.
Thank you.
So right at the top, what you guys actually pay us for is an opinion on your financial statements. I always like to remind everybody that the financial statements are yours. James, this sounds eerily familiar to the last presentation you heard, I'm sure. But the financial statements are management's. All we as auditors do is express an opinion on those financial statements. So you'll see at the top there, our opinion for your audit for last year is that they were not materially misstated. So you have what's known as a clean audit opinion which is very good. I was gonna say for the last 20 years, but it's probably even been longer than that.
Did you ever find an unclean one?
Once or twice. Yeah, it's pretty infrequent. It's usually like a first year audit and they don't keep the records. But yeah, maybe once or twice in my 20 years.
Okay.
So then the next section here is the basic financial statements, and we just, because we're not gonna go through them in detail, we just like to remind everybody what the basic financial statements include. So the first section is management's discussion and analysis. And this is a summary of the year's results prepared by the village. So Dan works with us on that, and then it's raining. Exhibit A1, A2, and A3. Those financial statements include all financial assets of the town. So if you were to run the town as if it were a for-profit business, that's what those financial statements would show you. And we're gonna talk about the details in a little bit. This is just the high, the high level, what the financial statements are. Exhibit A4 and A5, those are the modified accrual financial statements. So those only include all of the assets that are available within 60 days of year end. So it doesn't include fixed assets, and it doesn't include any debt. You guys have very minimal fixed assets. Exhibit A4 and A6 are the reconciliations between the two methods. So people have a hard enough time understanding financial statements. So the Government Accounting Standards Board decided for towns we were going to give you 2 sets of financial statements just to make it a little less clear. But we'll get to that in a moment. We also have the notes to the financial statements, which provide additional explanations on the numbers that are included on the financial statements. And then Exhibit B1 is the exhibit that everybody likes to focus on. That's the budget to actual comparison. So that's what you guys are seeing throughout the year. So we'll spend a little time talking about that. We also issued, and I think it's in your packets, the governance letter, which is a separate document. We are required to communicate with you guys, the council, whoever is charged with governance, and in this case it's the council. It's really intended for much larger organizations where maybe management isn't as, where governance isn't as involved. You guys are pretty heavily involved in the process. What I like to say is it's the Cliff Notes version. So if you aren't going to read the entire 45 pages of the financial statements, the governance letter gives you sort of the highlights. It talks about the significant accounting policies. It talks about significant estimates, which the largest one right now for you guys is the wind liability. I think everybody's super aware of that at this point. We're several years in. Not much change, if any, to your wind liability. It's at $196,000. This letter also talks about the audit adjustments. You guys, with your bookkeeper, we don't make a lot of audit adjustments for you guys. Your books and records are pretty clean. And what I like to say about that is that shows that during the year, the financial reports that you're receiving can be relied upon. And that's important, right? If we come in at year end and we make a lot of journal entries, that means you might not have been looking at really good information throughout the year. So lower number of audit adjustments is really a good thing. Disagreements with management. This is in regards to accounting standards. We didn't have any of those. Consultations with other independent accountants. Again, none that were.
Standards or no disagreements.
That's right. And then here's difficulties encountered in performing the audit. I always laugh because when I do these presentations, management is usually sitting there staring at me. So am I really going to tell them they were super difficult? No. But no, this is, again, if we did have trouble getting information out of management, or if there was, some sort of conflict over, I don't know, giving us the records, this is where we would have the opportunity to let governance know about that. We didn't have any issues. You guys, Dan gives us a box of records, everybody gives us access to bill.com. It's very easy to do your audit. There at the bottom section, so we'll start talking about some numbers here. Roman numeral 3, comparison of budget to actual. So you guys have a general fund, and in the financial statements, that's Exhibit B1. So we did a really high level. Your revenues were budgeted at $836,000 last year. Your actual revenue received was $911,000, almost $912,000. So you received $75,000 more than what you were anticipating when the budget was prepared. Your expenditures were 62% under budget. They budgeted $2,589,000. Your actual was $989,000, or you were under budget by almost $1.6 million. That's a little screwy, and so we explain that in the words underneath there. It's largely because you are projecting $1,250,000 for future capital projects in that number. You also were under budget because your street projects were budgeted at $500,000 last year, and you only spent $263,000. So both in the right direction. You always want revenues to be more, expenses to be less.
Can I ask you a quick question there?
Of course.
Because our capital expenditures are large but infrequent, we typically are in that situation.
Yeah.
Is there a better way to account for that?
We could create a
A
capital
capital
projects
account?
fund. Mm-hmm.
A separate one?
Yep.
Uh,
And then your operations would be all under the general fund, and your capital projects would go in the capital projects fund, because in general, your budget should balance.
Right.
Am I speaking out of turn there, Mr. Bolt?
Yeah.
Right?
Right, yeah.
That's what we like, is for a budget to be balanced, and then a capital projects budget would not have to be balanced, because in general, you're funding those from reserves.
So we could take that, that would be a separate part of the accounts.
It would, yep.
Yeah, we should look at that.
It's pretty simple and
Yeah,
straightforward
yeah.
to do.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause it's misleading otherwise.
It is.
It is, that's right.
I think
Yeah.
so as well. I think, you know,
Yeah.
showing you're $1 million under budget when you never plan to spend that money in
Right.
fiscal year
Right.
19.
Yeah.
We were really good at getting money back from the utilities for our capital projects.
You do have a knack for that.
We do.
So the top of
Okay.
page 2, significant budget
Close for me,
variances.
sorry.
So we're still on the general fund here, but this is a little bit more detail on any accounts, on the revenue accounts and the expenditure accounts. I didn't realize it was back there. Pointing. I'm a pointer. So, you know, you guys have, and we'll get into the trends, but total revenues there, that first section. So income taxes were pretty comparable, like 9,000 more than you budgeted. Interest income was significantly more at 39,000. Permit fees were almost double what you budgeted, 31,692 compared to the budget of 15. And then all your other revenues were almost dead on. 10,000 is, you know, actual was about 10,000 higher. So your total revenues budgeted were 836, and your actual came in at 911, and so that's sort of the biggest categories of why it came in higher. Again, I'm an accountant. We tend to be pretty conservative, so you know this is pretty good budgeting in my mind. Expenditures, excuse me. So we break it down here in the expenditure side between general government, public works, public safety, and recreation. Those are sort of your bigger overall categories. And then we have our budget variances here. So financial administration was about $18,000, almost $19,000 less than we had budgeted. Other general governments, again, trending less than what we had budgeted, about $18,000. Public works, this is what we were just talking about, $1.5 million less than we had budgeted. Highways and streets, about $39,000 less than budgeted. Sanitation and waste removal, which is interesting because the actual was up, but it was less than what we had budgeted by $33,000. And then public safety and recreation. So that's how you end up, you know, at almost 1.6 million less than your budget. It's largely the capital projects. There at the bottom, Roman numeral number 5, comparison to the prior year. You like to have not just the comparison to the budget, but sort of how are we doing compared to the prior year. So property taxes took a big hit there, 142,000. Income taxes also, interestingly enough, took a big hit from the year before of 103,000. Our licenses and permits are up, our interest is up, those are all trending positively. And then our other accounts are pretty comparable to the year before. So overall, our revenues were down from the year before, 194,000. Our expenses there, the only one that had a significant increase was public works, and we know that 260,000 was for the street projects. So in fiscal year 18, that very first column, we had revenue over expenditures, or net income if you were in a for-profit world, of about 452,000. This year we had a loss of about 78,000. So a $530,000 swing. The top of page 3, those are the significant changes in line by line in the expenses. You know, fiscal year 18 compared to fiscal year 19, the office salaries went up about 14. Office furniture and equipment went down. The space looks great, but it, you know, but those are more one-time only
That
costs.
one-time things
Yeah.
again, yeah.
Your community events, there was a large community event in 19, which accounted for that $20,000 increase. Building review and permits, you know, the revenue was up, so I'm not surprised the expenses were up, about 13,000. And then that GIS update, that's a project specific, so again, that's a one-time only cost. Waste collection and recycling, this was some sort of error,
In their
if I'm not
contra- in their
mistaken,
contract
in their
calculations.
Contracted, yeah, in the amount they were billing you, so again, $40,000 increase. Our street projects, about $260,000 this year, and then all the other expenditures, pretty comparable to the year before. So overall, an increase year over year in expenses of about $336,000. There at the bottom, the last piece is the balance sheet. So, you know, what kind of assets do we have? I see a typo, gosh darn it.
Hmm?
That second column should say 19.
Whoops, yeah.
Yeah, I hate typos. Cash and cash equivalents, 326,000 in the second column there at the end of June 2019. Investments were 2.5 million, and then we have some other assets, about 27,000. So for total assets for the town at June 30, 2019, 2,895,000. We do have some liabilities, that's not unusual, it's timing, we have some bills to pay, 57,000. There at the bottom, the fund balances, so 14,000 of that is non-spendable, that just means that it's already been spent, essentially. Assigned fund balance is the 2.4 million. Those are the monies that you as the council have earmarked for future projects. So essentially that can't be spent either because you've said we're gonna spend it on capital projects. So your unassigned fund balance at the end of the year was 378,000. And I did, in the writing there, I do like to point out, you're super liquid. Cash equivalents and investments, 99% of your total assets in both the current year and the prior year.
We're required, we can't have deposits in uninsured.
You cannot, no.
And so it's CDs or bank deposits or.
Yeah, it's a violation of
MOTP.
state law.
Yeah.
You can be in some other things, and I'm sure Ron can speak to those, but you do have to be pretty conservative.
Yeah,
And we have an approved investment policy
yeah.
that's been approved by the state treasurer.
Yes.
You probably saw a copy.
Yes, we have a copy of it.
So, Eva, we talked a little before about, you and others do financial procedures audits.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about what you do and who else is in the business doing that sort of thing?
Oh, sure. Any CPA firm can do an internal control audit. But what we would do is come in and we'd walk through what your processes are, and then we tell you where the holes are. So this happens a lot when I was telling him earlier, when there's changes in procedures or there's changes in personnel. Not everybody understands the importance of that signature in the upper corner, or reviewing it, or why the council actually really should look at those financial statements on a monthly basis. So we come in and we give you a report. It's outside the scope of the audit. We do walkthroughs and we do testing during the audit, but we have a trip across standard, so if we don't trip across it, it's not something we're gonna point out. But the biggest thing is, you know, as you're changing your systems and your processes, it is a good thing to have. Tell me, the same person shouldn't be authorizing the transaction as recording the transaction, and you do have multiple people involved, so we can get you to some pretty good controls, especially with the oversight provided by the council.
I mean, she mentioned in passing that one of the major problems they see is in collusion. I said, I have figured out that we need to have 3 people involved in any nasty work around here.
Yeah,
But
there's
so I have
nothing
to
you can
really
do about collusion.
what's that? So collusion is,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you know,
Not
if,
that Arthur's planning to do any
well, then he was telling me about his non-extradition countries, and I'm thinking, okay, I am the auditor.
Those tickets to the Cayman Islands.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Brazil, the guy that came in
Brazil, I
yeah.
think, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's very hard to combat collusion. I mean, it really is. So if you get 2 or 3 people and they want to steal money, you're going to have a hard time with it. But I think Montgomery County just had another huge fraud. And it was lack of oversight. So I can't stress enough the importance of the oversight that's performed by the council on a monthly basis. And I do this at every presentation I go to. I know it might be confusing, but you know, just holding somebody accountable. If you don't recognize a vendor, say something. Because on Build.com, you know, you can send it right back and say, who is this? And they can email you back. So it's a lot easier now, I think, to check things. You can Google them.
To what extent did you look at any of this while on the audit?
We do, yes. So any controls that we can test, we do test. And so it's likely we did a cash disbursement test. I'd have to look back to see whether we did cash disbursements or payroll this year. But anything that we can test, we do test.
I should admit, I'm getting into the treasurer's report here, but we have migrated over the last roughly 18 months to bills.com, which is an online payment system, and now have the facility in-house to do more of our accounting and journal entries and so on. And we have gotten rid of, one of the sources of problems in the past was paper checks mailed. They would get literally stolen from the mailbox. They never arrived. They disappeared from mailboxes at the recipients, or mailed late, and then we would get an overdue notice. So now we have instant, and the other, we used to have to send the invoices to the accountant. The accountant would send back the mailed checks. We would put them in the mailbox, and so often a week or more would go by. Going online, we could do it much quicker.
Build.com is awesome because it allows, and I saw you had your hand raised, but Build.com allows the council members who previously had to look at paper invoices, and there's just that delay, can now sit on their couch, look at the invoice on their cell phone, on their laptop, on their whatever tablet.
But we would have to come into the office and go through the stack of stuff.
And we as auditors love it because I can see, you know, Build.com gives me a report, I can see for every invoice the 2 people who signed it much quicker than if we had to shuffle through, you know, all that paper.
But still, it changes the procedures.
It does.
And we're not at all certain that we're set up for the new online world.
It becomes more about computer access controls in today's world and less about physical, is the check stop kept in a locked file cabinet? So it's certainly something we can help you with.
Okay,
Right.
good. Thank you.
And even with Bill.com, it's still 2 council members.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what you guys see on the back.
Correct. That's who we see approving it.
You actually hit my point, but what I wanted to ask you from an auditing standpoint, I would assume that Bill.com would be easier.
Oh,
for
it's
you
much easier.
To basically go through, rather than us sending you stacks of paperwork.
Yep.
Are there any other improvements within Bill.com or anything else that we should be doing or that you would like to see us doing as far as reports or I don't want to say paperwork because I don't mean actual paper.
Yeah.
But is there anything else within either Bill.com or any other system that you could recommend for us? And it doesn't have to be now, but maybe
Yeah,
down the line.
so
when we
that would
talk
give us
about
some
it.
more,
Right.
some more
Okay.
access. But Bill.com currently, how you're using it is enough for an audit standpoint. It's a perfect trail. And that's what we do, we audit the trail, right? So I want to see who approved it, who signed it.
In terms of coming from the office, the way we transition, it is so much more streamlined now. Our bills are paid faster. We can tell if something has not been paid, that
Yeah.
something's been missed. It's just a far cleaner record for us.
Yeah.
So just to, if anybody has anything else, we'll try and wrap up because I want to respect people's time. But so if we were to put out that we want a third party to come in and kind of look at our new processes and procedures for someone our size, and Ron may tell me not to ask this question, but since that is not something we budgeted for this fiscal year.
Yeah.
Do you have in your experience, for someone with our size and budget, what would that cost? ish?
Oh, I don't know, maybe $2 or $3 grand.
Okay.
It can be scaled up or scaled back.
Okay.
You
But we're
know,
not talking 10 or 20.
Oh, no. I mean, it's maybe a day or two to walk through what you do and then to outline, what our recommendations would be. It's not,
Okay.
Great.
it's not a $20,000 project, no.
Okay.
We saved it on streetlights, so we're
There you go. Can we get the utility to pay for it?
Fair, okay.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank
Well,
you very much.
Thank you, Eva, for coming
Thank
in
you,
and
guys.
helping us
James.
out.
Yes,
Good to
so
see
You
good to
mentioned
see
there was
you.
a typo, will you be sending us?
I
the
will
right
fix
typo?
that, yes. I can't stand a typo.
James, you were gonna say what?
I do. So your recommendation about this audit situation,
Yeah.
do you want me to move forward with that?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
let's
Because
talk
they're-
about it in the financial report, because Paul's here. And
No worries, so that's what I was asking.
All right.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
I am
Thank you.
gonna sneak out.
Yeah,
Thank you,
please.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Eva.
All right, let's talk about annual trees. And Paul, we're excited to have you back.
Not nearly as excited as I am to be here. I'm sorry? Wait, there's, okay. And again, thank you for being here, and I certainly appreciate the fact that you've renewed your interest in my caring for the trees for the community for another year, and I'm very grateful for that. The state of the trees is very good. Your asset is being managed very well, and the commitment that you're putting into your trees is, I think, showing very good results. Last year, I think we had to take down 8 trees or something like that. So given that you have over 500 trees, that's a little over 1%,
Yeah.
1.5%.
Huh.
So,
Interesting.
so
Yeah.
that means, on average, your trees are lasting 75 years, okay?
You said in your report that some just up and died.
Yeah, every once in a while,
That
just like
happens.
us, we up and die. Some trees just, I don't know, I can't explain it.
Right,
A
okay.
couple of trees just bit it last
Okay.
year. We also learned a little bit about a couple types of trees. We were planting some sweet gums, and we found that, number one, a couple of years ago, a sweet gum just died. And then last year, one just got blown apart in a storm. We're not planting sweet gums anymore. We're gonna stay away from that species. I think that, over the years, we've had very few problems with branches coming down, present company excluded, and hitting cars. I believe your car got hit a couple times a couple years ago.
Did it? I think it was you. You did have some damage.
No,
You don't remember.
yeah, we had some problems over at the corner of Delafield and Bradley. Couple, and a dead branch came down and hit a car.
Melville.
Melville, excuse me, Melville, yeah. And, but in going back now close to 40 years, we just haven't had those problems, which is good. Now, I should also say that when you own a tree, you assume a risk. There's risks involved in trees. It's my job to be proactive on these trees, keeping an eye on them, and letting you guys know where there's a risk and correcting it. And so that's kind of what my focus is in Martin's Additions, is keeping an eye on the trees. This past year, as I said, we took 8 trees down. We planted those trees for you. It is always our interest to plant trees that do very well in these kinds of conditions. One thing that I'm seeing, and I've talked to Paula about this and she agrees, that on small trees, which we're only now planting under the wires, we don't want trees to grow up into the wires. Your policy about native trees, we don't have too many native trees that we can put under the wires. Basically, we have redbuds and service berries. We have 2 different, well, we need to expand that. So we need to look outside the box and bring in some other types of trees, because after a while, we're just not gonna have the diversity that we want. As far as large native trees, I think there are several other types of trees that we haven't been planting in Martin's Additions that we can start rotating those in. And I'll work with Paula on that and getting in some new types, hackberries, for instance, maybe some beech trees, which have been showing some promise, some different types of oaks, et cetera. So the objective is diversity, and I think we have, 40 different types of trees in Martin's Editions right now. I'd like to maintain that, and maybe get some more. As I've often said, your trees are my arboretum, okay? I don't have space on my property for all these trees, so I plant them for you guys, and I just manage them.
And these new varieties, they're available in the nurseries?
Yeah, pretty much so. We can find them. They're out there. This past year, no one took advantage of the tree planting in personal backyards. I know there's some interest for next year. There has been a thought that perhaps we can expand our scope on this, that right now we're only planting large trees in backyards. There are some properties that don't have a space for a large tree, and it might be something that we could plant small trees. Some of these new houses have the buried water tanks, and you can't plant a big tree by that, but you can plant small ones. So you may want to look at expanding the program. I would also suggest that you let people know about the program several times a year.
Right.
So that there's, we can look at spaces in the springtime just as well as we can in November. And so that we can maybe get some interest then for the fall. And spread out the period, maybe, a monthly notice or every month and a half notice on that may be beneficial. Let's see if there's anything else on my list here. Small trees. That's my report.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yep.
May I ask a question? Paul, I'm glad to hear it, and Paula both. I don't know if this is something you want, but the squirrels planted a really nice oak tree in my backyard by my back steps in one of my garden beds while I was in the wheelchair a couple years back, but I thought I'd dig it out last year and I didn't get to it. And it's now probably 15 feet tall, about 2 inches in diameter, just your planting size. And I am wondering if you would like to stop by my house in daylight over the weekend.
I would be happy to have a look at it. I do know that trees that size are that have never been root pruned or, grown in a nursery are pretty difficult
It's in a
to
garden
transplant.
bed. It's in a garden bed.
And
so the soil's
also,
been soft.
generally, the cost for coming in and digging one of those things and then picking it up and moving it far
I
exceeds.
can dig it, I can't pick it up.
Far exceeds the cost of a new one.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just not cost, because if you have a tree that's 15 feet tall and 2 inches in diameter, you're gonna have a ball of dirt that's gonna weigh 600 pounds.
That's right.
And
No
you're gonna need 3 or 4 guys to move that out of there, and that gets
Yeah.
real pricey real fast.
As I said, it's in garden soil, so digging it out,
Yeah.
wouldn't be too bad, but I don't have a wheelbarrow that'll take that
Yeah,
size.
I don't have a back that will lift it up.
There you go,
So
okay.
there's that.
Thought I would offer, thanks for answering.
I just have one question. So you guys do an annual ride around to look at the trees. That's
A couple times.
kind of a document.
A few times a year. Yeah.
When is the best time for this report? I know that you used to do this, but
Okay. Well,
when I
the
look
best-
back
the-
at minutes, I didn't see a consistent.
The best time was 3 weeks ago,
Okay.
when I did that, and I've given that to James.
Yeah.
Of-
But I mean, when you come in, so do you wanna come in December? December's a good time for you to do an annual, like, here's what's going on with the trees?
I've
Or
done
is-
that.
Okay,
I've submitted, Paula and I
yes,
drove around the community, and then we talked generally. I went back and I did a tree by tree survey of the trees and listed what needs to be
Be
done with those trees.
that was great. James shared it with us. What I'm asking is, when the council invites you to a meet, is the December meeting the best?
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
time?
I'm.
Or do you
I'm a-
prefer it at another time
No,
after you do one of the
whenever the
write-arounds?
saw is sharp.
Okay.
It doesn't make any
Okay.
difference.
Okay.
I'd be happy to chat with you at any time. Let's see, as I say, I'm available to the council, I'm available to management, I'm available to the homeowners. you know, there's many times that I've met with homeowners and we've talked about various issues on street trees, et cetera. So I'm happy to help you out there.
Thanks, James.
Quick question, you and I, we spoke about the planting of the right-of-way trees yesterday and today. Are you finished this project?
I believe we are.
Okay.
I haven't talked to Chris, my guy
Yeah,
who's planning.
mhm.
I know that earlier today, there was 1 or 2 trees that still needed to be planted, but I believe that they're in the ground right now.
Okay, can you let me
And
know
with the
tomorrow?
root ball in the ground and the side,
Right.
not reversed, you know.
Yeah, so can you just let me know
Yeah, I'll let you
tomorrow?
know.
Appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you. Thank
You're
you.
certainly welcome.
Okay, building administrator, Doug.
Things go over at 7204 Chestnut, there's 2 items. We're waiting for a wall check from the property owner to confirm that the addition on the right side and at the rear comply with the 2 variants that were granted last year. We talked to them, I guess, yesterday, and they came back today and said it was coming. The other thing is that I think Ron has been working on a right-of-way license agreement, or will be soon. They planted a white post in the right-of-way for a address sign on it, so we're preparing a right-of-way license for that, and that'll be coming up soon. On 3521 Cummings, the builder contacted us today. The county has signed off on a final inspection for the house, but the county website hasn't cleared it yet, so as soon as that gets cleared, we'll do one final inspection, and that job should be completed hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Everything's looking good. There is one item that we're talking. The old house had 2 driveway aprons, and the one closest to Brookville Road, we're trying to get him to remove and put the curb and gutter in. The plan was approved with just leaving it like it is, but since then we decided it would be better if we take it out. So we're negotiating with him to make that repair. So we'll be meeting with him soon to talk about that. 3412 Taylor Street, the stop work order is still in place. The builders have come in to us and to the county with revised roof plan to modify the roof, to lower the roof. They said it would take 3 or 4 days. The county has looked at it and said they will not require a re-signature on the plan. They will do a final inspection after the roof has been adjusted. So we're preparing a letter to the builder stating that the stop work order is still in effect. The only thing they can do is make this one adjustment to the roof to lower it. No other work will be done. Once the roof's adjusted and they provide us with a survey showing the new height and the county signs off on it, then we will reevaluate lifting the stop work order, but not until those things are done. So I think the letter either went out today or will go out tomorrow maybe.
The letter's already been sent.
Okay.
And I understand you guys met with Bernice after the last council meeting to talk about her concerns, the neighbor, so thank you very much for doing that.
Well, what they're proposing should bring it into compliance, so
Mhm.
hopefully that will work.
Yep.
They decided they didn't want to go for a variance because it was too expensive and too long, and there was no guarantee the variance would be approved, so they said it would take 3 or 4 days to fix it. We'll see, weather permitting. The last item is, we've talked about 2 ponding areas, one on Brookville and Quincy and one on Brookville and Cummings. And the lady that I was working with at the state turned me over to the maintenance people in their local maintenance depot. That person has since been transferred, so I'm starting all over again with another person. But I'll keep on top of them and I'm gonna call them and try to meet them on the site and get something done. It's probably too late now for the winter, unfortunately, so it'll be a springtime repair if they can find a way to fix it. But I was disappointed. He sent me an email last week when I asked him what was going on. He said, "Oh, I'm no longer there."
Yeah.
Happily
That's all I
so.
have. Any questions?
Thank you. Let us know about the Bradley storm drain if we need to ask other folks how to address it, because the utility's gonna take too long, then we'll figure that out, okay?
Doug, do you have any, are you familiar with this ponding that's taking place down here?
I haven't seen it, but I'll
Okay,
it might just be a root downspout that's
yeah,
not draining well.
Yeah.
I can look at it.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, we're moving on to the introduction of the resolution to amend the election rules and procedures. Susan?
Okay, so
See you, Monday.
2019-12-1 will amend the election rules and procedures, as Marty said, to provide for mailing absentee ballot filing a request for an absentee ballot to the election committee at the VMA office, as opposed to the post office, to provide for more efficient collection of those ballots, and also to save our tireless election committee the aggravation of having to deal with post office fees.
Thank you, on both counts, for the efficiency and the
You need to get her to sign this, right?
So is there a motion to
February.
introduce the resolution?
I'll move to introduce.
Okay, is there a
Second
second?
that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No? Okay, all right, financial matters. All
Oh,
right,
financial.
more talk about the matters.
Right.
Yes, thank you guys for doing it.
On the financial matters, things look good. The November income tax revenues is the first big one of the year. And it's actually the biggest of the year. Biggest single payment came in, and running a little bit below what we've gotten the last few years. But this is so idiosyncratic, it depends on mainly capital gains. So if our local residents have invested well, it shows up in our revenues. But using a very rough average of the last few years, the November payment has been about 40% of the total annual amount. Just using that, it suggests that we're gonna come out a little bit above what we budgeted for. We budgeted 650,000, best guess, back last April or so. It could come out to about 680,000. But this is just very rough, very rule of thumb, nothing precise about it. So we're doing well. Now, I also suggested here that because of the various shifts in our procedures, and the fact, because we've never actually done it before, we have an audit of our procedures. And that's what we were discussing this with Eva Webb, our accountant. Their company does do that. I would suggest that from the amount that she says, that we will not need an RFP on this if the amounts are under $10,000.
And that's the policy at the same
Yeah.
time, if you wanna get multiple firms.
Well,
to
I
bid.
think we do want to look at more than the firm that we've used forever to do our annual accounting or audit of the books. They are familiar, I mean, there are good things to say, they're familiar with our operations.
Right.
That on the positive side, but we might want to have another voice, another set of eyesights at the same time. So I would suggest that, James, you look to see other possibilities, other accounting firms, whether Elgit does it, our insurance company, or any other source that
I mean,
might do
Arthur,
this.
what's the downside to doing an RFP? Since we have access to now the state.
Yeah,
website,
I don't, there's a little more paperwork involved too. That's all.
But that may give
This
us
adopts
a
the
broader
policy.
group of people
To look at, right, that's right.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we have a limit or a minimum
Mhm.
is to cut down the paperwork. So, if it's not a burden to do an RFP, we could do that.
I mean,
Yeah.
that would be my preference, but that way we're not going soliciting at one, you know,
Yeah.
we put it out, it's posted here on MML's website, and then on the state website, and,
Yeah.
you know, whoever
You
wants
were
to
gonna
bid.
say, you have something?
No, I
okay.
actually would like to look at other firms.
Yeah,
too.
so would I. I
Presumably
did
they'll
too.
be pretty competitive,
Right,
but,
yeah.
I mean, there are advantages to having the
Right.
same firm, but
Well, we've talked about just at MML, one of the benefits, and you and I have talked about it,
Yeah.
but there are several, at the annual Maryland Municipal League Conference, there are several accounting firms that come and are on the
They
floor.
all want your business.
They all want the business, and they're all
Yeah.
looking, you know, they all do municipal focused work.
Right.
Sorry, Todd?
No, it's just, how long have we been using this firm to do the?
Forever.
So also, there's an advantage to having a fresh set of eyes.
That's right, that's the other.
And you'll find probably if you go out on an RFP for the process or procedure, they'll wanna know, do I have a shot at the rest of the business?
Right.
So it's a good way to also say, if we did go with you for that while you're bidding on this, what would that,
Right.
What would that look like? Yeah.
Yeah. Good, thank you, so we'll go for an RFP then.
Okay. All right.
Good. The other thing I'm suggesting, and the funny thing is, just as I was washing up to come over here tonight, I was listening to the news. The city of New Orleans was just hit by a ransomware attack, and all their systems are offline. So I am, and as well as over the course of the last year, a number of municipalities in Maryland and elsewhere in the country got hit. I suggest also we do a crypto security or a cybersecurity review as well, to just see how our procedures are, what we can do about that. If we are constantly backed up to the cloud, whether a seizure of your computers also seizes your cloud accounts as well.
It can
And
happen.
I'm not sure about that at all.
It can happen, if they're linked at all.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
can
you're
happen.
sending stuff up, I mean, I'm not sure how to do it. I know when I have a desktop backup, every minute, in a sense, it's updating it. So is it updating my backup with some kind of malware?
I
Yeah.
can speak to that.
Hmm?
One of the nonprofits I used to manage actually got hit that way. What they were doing is 5 minutes a day linking to the cloud to dump their data every day and separating it. And somehow the perp, whoever it was that planned it, they still haven't figured out who, figured out which 5 minutes a day they were linked and froze not only their entire computer system and data sets, but froze their cloud as well. So the whole purpose of having the cloud as
Right.
backup was there's only 5 minutes a day window, but they knew when the window was, and it was done. So the entire
Okay.
thing got locked up. Poor little nonprofit is just sweating blood.
Right. So I suggest that we again look into doing that sort of thing. And I'm not sure exactly how to do it. I'm not familiar with this area at all.
We
Anyone?
could do an RFP. I have some government folks who do cybersecurity work, so maybe I can talk to them about, you know,
What is
are
it we
the
ask for?
questions that we need to
Right,
be asking.
right.
And
Yeah,
they're dealing with much more sensitive data than we are, so,
Right.
Thank you.
thank you.
One thing I know they always say is update your operating system as your first line of defense. Because often they're working through holes that have been found in older operating systems.
Okay,
Okay,
so we need to accept your report.
okay. So my report is out there.
Yes. So
Move to-
I can move to accept Arthur's treasurer report for December.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, great. Next, James, the manager's report.
Good evening, council. Good evening, residents of VMA. Always a pleasure to serve. Currently, the VMA archiving project, we are 95% done.
Yeah.
All the
Are we
drawers.
gonna have a bonfire in January?
All of the drawers have been, I won't say reviewed, they've been taken out of, and now there's just 5% of just going through what was in our cabinet drawers and figuring out, does it need to be archived or does it need to be put someplace else? Myself and the vice chair has offered to look at those pieces of paper to kind of speed that process up. We'd like to get it done by the end of December, but it may be January. So that's what we're trying to do for that. Contracts. The community garden contract is out there, the RFP. The deadline is December 23rd. The composting RFP is closed, and Compost Crew is our VMA, is our contractor. They will start picking up January 22nd. There will be a info session on Wednesday, January 8th here in the office. The deadline to sign up to get your bin by January 15th is January 6th. So, and all these dates are on the website and have been communicated.
Wait, so the info session's happening after the deadline? I thought they said that we could have people sign up at the info session. So will you go back to him and?
Yeah, I will. I
Because
will
that doesn't
definitely.
make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. I think we were fiddling around with the dates, and that might get lost in translation.
Yeah, and we
Sorry.
definitely would want to just
Yeah, of course. No, of
inform
course.
them
No, of
so
course.
that people can do
Yeah,
it.
have you gotten any indication of interest, of how much interest?
Quite a bit actually. I will say that when it first went out, there was a huge surge and it's kind of tapered off. But I haven't been in contact with them recently. We are trying to. They want to do a mailer to VMA, and so I'm trying to work with them in our printer,
Right.
so they would pay for that, and so get them a quote for that.
Good.
But
good.
I know at least 20 people have signed up. I don't know how many people were already clients, but I know at least 20 people have signed up. And I want to remind residents that this is a fee that is paid for by the homeowner / resident.
Right.
So I'll make sure that is
Right.
clear. Let's see. Integrated plant care. Paul Wolf just left. He will be with us for another year. GIS. We received 13 proposals for the GIS project, and we whittled it down to 4. We are currently interviewing prospective bidders, if you will. We've already done 2 interviews, and we'll be wrapping that up probably sometime next week. I will submit my bidding tabulation sheet to the council so they can make the final determination of who they wish to select. Prices ranged from 5,000 all the way up to like 25 and even higher. But we whittled it down pretty good, and thanks to Doug, who did a lot of the yeoman's work on that and getting it down from 13 to 4. So that's where we are right now with that. Once that's up and running, we will be able to work with the walkability study, because that's what they need for the GIS. I mean, they need GIS for the walkability study. Snow removal. Rolling Acres will be doing our snow removal. I'm working with Ron to finalize that service contract, and they will be beginning January 1st. They're currently under contract for the rest of the month, but they'll be starting January 1st. Let's see. Green Suite option year for next year has been agreed to, so they will be doing our right-of-way maintenance through December 2020, and then we'll put it back out there and see if anybody else wants to do our right-of-way maintenance. I just spoke about the Christie Kubiak. At this juncture, I'm still waiting for the council to give me a committee.
I talked to there are 5 residents. 4 who have said, yes, we're interested. 1 who has said, I would like some more information, so thank you for getting me the more information.
No worries.
And since everyone has said nothing's happening until January anyway, so Chris will have those names by early January.
And hopefully by January, we'll have a GIS contractor, and then we'll be able to provide him with the necessary data so that he can move forward with that project as well. VMA office, those are the closure dates. They're just Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, what have you. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. I'm sorry. Christmas Eve, we'll close the office at 2. We'll close for Christmas Day, if that's okay. No problem. And then New Year's Eve, we're going to close at 2 as well, and then we're going to be closed on New Year's Day.
So like the 26th, you'll be open?
Oh, yes.
And the 2nd, you'll be open?
Most definitely.
Okay,
Most
thank you.
definitely. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Let's see.
And then as you guys, I know you put this out and noticed, but is there gonna be, trash shouldn't be that impacted just because of the way the holidays, but I think a reminder to residents that says, just so you know, here are the dates.
Gotcha. Well, believe it or not, because the days fall on Wednesday,
I still think it's
Yeah,
a
no,
good
I'll
thing
do
to
it.
send out a reminder to people.
I will do it because the trash day. I mean, the holiday falls on a Wednesday. We're not really affected by
Shouldn't be.
trash. Shouldn't be. Let's see. Pepco. I'm still working with them in the dark spots, and getting our street lamps replaced. One was replaced on Chestnut. The light was out, and that was replaced. And as soon as we finalize the actual number of street lamps we're gonna put up.
So I had a question. There was one that we're definitely gonna put up on
Yes,
Thornapple.
that's definitely.
You
Yes.
talked to the residents.
I've talked to
There
the
were
residents.
2 on the west side of Thornapple, on the north side
end.
of
Yes, I'm waiting.
block.
Yep.
Are we still waiting for
Unfortunately,
Pepco?
we are still waiting for Pepco to let us know which poles are ours or are they Section 3s.
Surprise.
And-
Let's write them a letter. I mean, we've been waiting now at least a month.
Yes, we have, and
we should be able to get them, like, who's paying the bill should be very simple.
I agree. I asked again today.
Okay, so let's, and then there were two others that, I believe Dennis King asked.
Correct, and I spoke to Councilmember Hill, and she was going to take a drive-by over to that location. This is Summit and Thornapple as you leave the village.
Okay,
And then the other location is on Chestnut. That one definitely needs to be replaced.
okay,
Okay?
thanks.
Can I ask about my light?
You sure can?
And what is the status of the light?
Well, I'll have to get Miss Hill to take a walk through there, and I spoke to her about it, so she's aware of it. She just needs to take a
Yeah,
walk
we've
through.
been requesting it for about 6
I
months.
understand.
And she's on
You
vacation.
really like a street light.
No, she's not, it's just her birthday.
I'm sorry?
It's just her birthday.
Oh, I thought you, tonight? Oh, gosh.
You know, she didn't wanna be here.
Hey, your point
You're
is-
kidding.
I don't, we didn't take offense to it.
So she's in town.
She is.
That's
yes,
great to know.
She is, and she did see some of the other locations, so I don't know the answer, but she's on top of the lights. Okay, so traffic control, Wayne's done some of this, but they're gonna finish by the end of the
Yeah,
month.
once the weather, he said since the weather's gonna be nicer next week, he should be able to do the rest of it.
Okay, all right.
I've had requests from several members that live in the 7300 block of Delphil.
Oh, yes.
The way that parking situation, there's been requests for more signs and things of that nature. Joe has suggested that we actually designate parking spots with white lines so that people know where to park their car as opposed to anywhere on the street. More signs is not going to help that situation. So what I'm saying is if you have a huge SUV and you park it and you take up much more, but if we have designated spots,
So like what's out
these
here?
spots out here, then people will know, oh, I need to be in here in these spots, as opposed to putting up more signs, because that's not really gonna.
Joe hates signs. This is our
Joe
traffic
is not,
engineer. He
he's
hates signs.
not a big fan of signs, but he said in this particular case, he wouldn't recommend it for any other parts of the village, but
Right.
the way that area is with the dead end and the fact that certain people, it's just so, we would only put it on the back end of Delafield itself where the dead end is.
Okay.
But that is a suggestion. I, of course, have to take it to the council with a cost and things of that nature. This project would not even begin until next spring because of the way the marking is. It's gotta be warm outside,
Right.
and it's gotta sit
So
overnight.
let's take that for the residents who've raised concerns.
Mhm.
We talked to our traffic engineer. The traffic engineer is recommending that we put out stripes.
Yep.
Which will take away some parking spaces, likely. May help with moving.
Correct.
But may take away parking. You guys all.
All in agreement. I don't know if they're gonna be in agreement, but that's his recommendation.
How will it be enforced?
So the county police can
How will-
help us
how
with
will
that.
that be
Also
enforced?
ticket. Yeah, we have the ability to ask the county to help us with that.
Okay. Community events.
But that's all, they have to, I think residents need to be aware of, if we put markings on the streets, that changes the,
Consequences, yeah.
okay, sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Community events, the CEC hosted a meeting on December 9th that Mr. Allen attended along with some other items, and the minutes are posted on the website if you want to review them. The next meeting for the CEC is March 2nd. Utilities, WSSC, Washington Gas, Pepco, have nothing to report. The building administrative report has been submitted. Mr. Fowler has submitted his report, and he will be installing the Tree City signs on the back end of the village by the end of December. That's another project that he's supposed to do next week. We have 5 signs that we're gonna put up. And,
Cause that one on Thornapple's already been done.
yeah, it's done. And it has the 11-year sticker.
Okay,
So
great.
it's updated. We have 5 new hard signs and 5 stickers that say 11 years. So he'll
Okay.
install all of that once you confirm the
I have to
location.
go and look at the sites that he and
Well,
Joe
it's
proposed.
right, yep.
Right.
So they're gonna be installed in the right of way, in a U pole or whatever those, on a separate.
So some of them, I think it's location dependent, and
Okay.
it's been a while since I looked at that. I think some places we have that we can put up on an existing U-pole, some places are, I wanna say light poles, but don't quote me on that. Joe, when he did his first analysis, had recommendations for spots. Like one on Oxford, right now, there's a VMA sign and the speed limit sign on the same pole. We're not supposed to do that, because one is a informational sign and one is a regulatory sign. So the idea is, there's a pole just down from that, that's the fire hydrant. We will take down the fire hydrant sign, move the speed limit sign to that, so it's standing on its own pole, and then have the VMA and then the Tree City on the same pole, as long as it is high enough to clear the sight lines that are the recommended sight lines. So, between Joe and Wayne, I'm hopeful.
And the weather, so we can at least.
Right, Keith says the weather's gonna be warm, so
Exactly.
there we go. Okay, all right, thank you for this.
Yep.
All right, yep.
Let me introduce one, item not on the agenda. Last week, the village got a request from the Washington Post. They're doing an article on like, this is your village. Nobody would respond to her, the poor lady, so I
That's
said.
not true, she talked to you and a
So
couple
she,
other people.
okay, she talked to me. So they're doing this, on Saturday, and usually it's called, like, you're part of, this is your town, your village, your block, or something like that. So I talked to her for 30 minutes or so. Then she sent me back another email. I can't get anyone else to talk to me. So I gave her a few more names of people who are actively involved in community affairs. So I think she did get to talk
She did
to,
get
she talked to some of the others. But I should have mentioned in talking, people here are very reticent, except for me. So I was willing to talk, okay? Yeah.
Talking to reporters.
Before, I'm sorry, there is one item I wanted to bring up to date. 7200 Delphine? That house is going to be raised, and they're going to build a new one.
Yeah, the corner of
The
Taylor.
corner of Taylor and Belleville.
Yep.
So I wanted to bring that up. We met with them today, and they're not going to renovate it. They're going to tear it down. So they're going to be coming to us with all their.
Okay,
So that would, it's because of where it is.
it's a corner lot.
It's a
and
corner
gonna
lot
be
and it's on
complicated.
Taylor and it's going with 3412 Taylor.
Mhm.
It's a lot going on in that block.
Mhm.
Just wanted to make the council aware of it.
All right, thank you. Any other resident comments to wrap us up? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Marty Langman, Chestnut Street. A couple of items and one community request. First item is that we did have another Pepco outage last night on the north end. It only was 5 or 10 minutes, but the entire north end went down about 10:20 PM. And the Pepco correction that they finally made after 20 years of this village banging on their heads, which was to hook us with a backup link to the Connecticut Avenue line, because we're on the old line that comes down from like Wheaton. That worked. It didn't work fast, but it did work. It took about 10 minutes for the power to come back on. Knocked out all the computers and the TV, but it came back on. So the backup linkage did work. It was just a little slow. Second thing is that there was some discussion on the listserv, and I've been pigeonholed by a number of neighbors about the cost of the compost service. And I've been asked to ask the council why the compost service is not being covered like recycling or any other village service. Given our budget, the way it was stated, given our budget and our ability to pay for such a thing, it would be reasonable as an economist to presume that if you did provide it as a public service, a whole lot more people would in fact be willing to participate. I heard you say earlier, I think, James, that 20 people, 20 families had signed up.
Yes.
We have, what, 320 households, right? And if we really want this to work, the request that was given to me is please ask the council to reconsider treating this as a regular part of our ecological community devotion to recycling in all its forms, and consider subsidizing and or simply covering it as a municipal service. And my own personal vote would be covered as a municipal
Well,
service.
this was considered.
I know it was.
And
I told them that.
the, one of the rationales against doing that is in the surveys we've done, half the people said no way would they want it,
Right.
free or nothing.
Right.
Uh,
But still, it's 180 households versus 20 participating.
Well, it'll
Yeah.
probably be more than 20, that was just the very first cut.
Yeah.
So,
And technically, that was, I think, drawing on survey responses, which didn't represent all of the households. It was like 100 total.
Yeah.
They're-
So,
they're
and
But,
there
large.
were-
but this was asking, it was last, I think it was asked last year too.
They're big
Yeah,
cities
And-
that-
last year it
and the
was
big cities
response
that
was-
offer this as a city service. Are there any other sections in Chevy Chase that offer it as a part
So,
of their
The
service?
the town offers it as part of their service. The village does, what we're doing is a pass-through. One of the things we've heard from residents is, all right, we're paying $35 or $32 a bucket now. If we can get that down to half price, the village is creating the pool that's allowing them to save, for now. So,
But,
sorry, go ahead.
and people were that emphatic about it, saying that.
Oh, yeah,
they
people
would not
don't want
consider it.
those buckets in their house,
You don't put them in your house.
Or in the village.
or
Yeah.
wherever you put them. Where do you put them?
So you
Outside.
put them wherever
But
you
I
want.
think some people have sort of misconceptions based on
Yeah.
earlier iterations of
Mm.
composting
Mhm.
protocols.
Yeah, I would simply ask the council to be open to reconsideration of this, because a whole lot of people said, love to be part of it, but I don't think we should be paying for it household by household. This is a wealthy village, it should be a service. So that's the next step. The Washington Post article, I wanted to pick up on that because the Washington Post writer did call my husband to talk about the history of
Because
Washington.
I sent him his article,
You
the article.
Arthur, you sent him
he
to my
had
Bill.
written, and I
And my
told
Bill
him.
talked to him for close to 45 minutes about the
Okay.
history of the village, because Bill had taken it all the way back to the colonial land grant. And wrote a history for the Montgomery County Historical Society about Martin's additions.
And I happened to have his article, and I said, yeah, I have this all, I could send you the article.
Yeah, well, talking to him, he probably sent him the article too, so thank you again for sending, he had a great time talking report
Good,
and was really
good.
tickled to be asked, and so that was a good
Good.
move, and he said to say hi.
All right. Any other, yes, Mr. Allen?
Just want to wish everybody happy holidays.
Aw.
Good, thank you.
Aw, Keith.
Same to you. All right. With that, can we get a?
I move to adjourn.
This is short.
I wanted to explain that he's coming from the gym, it's not that he's not listening to my.
All right, so Arthur moves to adjourn. We have a
Something was
second.
missing.
We have a second to adjourn?
All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? No.
No.
We're adjourned.